Hello and welcome to the Kickstarter show, the choice between rent and gaming.
Truth. Very much truth on that.
No, I've never had to make that decision before, ever.
Yeah.
No.
I
don't have a problem.
Either that or welcome to the ice cream truck show.
The ice cream truck show.
Apparently he's parked right outside the door.
Yep, he's decided, apparently the kids in the neighborhood have decided they want ice cream right there. Anyhow.
Well, I'm in the middle of the block, so
that's a good place. Honestly, probably waiting for you the way you guys used to run out there all the time last summer.
Yeah, right?
Alright, so we have a few Kickstarters to talk about, and apparently because I have not looked at something, they're going to...
Yeah,
I'm going to get an on-camera surprise.
An on-camera live view of something.
So that's how we're going to end our show, with a live on-camera viewing of me freaking out about something, apparently.
Yep, this is going to be neat.
Okay.
Hopefully.
We'll see.
You better make it good TV. That's all I'm saying.
No pressure. None.
No pressure.
Okay.
No pressure. Just fired. No pressure.
Okay, gotcha. Alright, so the first Kickstarter I want to talk about is actually one that we touched on last week.
Yep.
I wanted to kind of touch on it because it's in its last day or two of funding. So it has funded, and in fact it's funded to the point of 4 models. It is the Warbands of the Cold North by Trey Manor.
Yes. Good job, Trey.
Yes, good job. So the opening Warband is now 9 models
Nice.
when it started at 5.
But 9 models for the same $55?
Yes, 4 additional models added to the Kickstarter.
So $6 a piece for first release Trey Manor stuff?
Yep, and all of them available as add-ons, plus some other stuff that's not part of the Warband that he has for add-ons as well.
And that's actually, you know, now we're talking about a really good deal, because that's actually going to put a decent percentage below his normal web store price. So...
And actually, I was doing a little, just a quick research thing, because Trey's done a number of Kickstarters at this point, only one of which didn't succeed, which was this in plastic.
Right, and he's also worked on a lot of projects that you don't realize, because he's one of those freelancers whose name... There's this weird thing about freelance sculptors, the guys whose names are a draw, you announce when they work on your project because it's a draw, and everybody else, you kind of keep hush-hush so that people don't find out who's
your guy
working
is
for you, so that they don't steal your guy.
No, that never happened.
Which I don't appreciate, by the way. I'm biased as a freelance writer. Freelance writers in RPGs and war games have fought over this for literally 30 years, and I'm thankful that people have burned their careers to make sure that people get credit for what they work at this point. However, your concept artists, your sketch artists, and your sculptors don't always have that privilege yet.
No.
So...
I mean, and the thing is, there are companies out there that can afford to hire them full-time so they don't have to be freelance anymore, and there are people who are going to take that job.
Yeah. That's the
kind of that's the way it is. But anyway, Trey has done a really good job here. I got to tell you, it's actually gotten to the point where he is putting up half-sculpted models because he's run out of ideas. Yep. Which is always kind of cool.
He's ahead of his $1 million plan.
He's ahead of his $1 million plan. He's got about 230 some odd backers as of the last time I looked at it.
Not bad, not bad.
It's not his highest, but it is definitely in his top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Again, Mr. Manor, congratulations, sir. You deserve it.
Alright, so a new Kickstarter that I want to talk about, because when I saw it, I was like, I want these things. And then they have a pledge level that I think is so unique. Alright, so
let's hear it.
Stone Skull Studios. Okay, that if you look them up, you will find that they are doing a furniture and accessories Kickstarter for 28mm stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And they've got a few different patterns. They've got like a Gothic pattern, a Wood Elf pattern, a Dwarven pattern, with like tables and bookshelves and pillars and, stuff to make your buildings look actually lived in type stuff.
And an interesting thing, also a sci-fi pattern.
Yes.
So they're actually, it's not just fantasy pieces, it's fantasy, modern, super modern, postmodern. Like
there's even some retro modern.
So some atomic era stuff. Right. So you've got a few different options to go with here. You're not just knocked into one zone. So that's really cool.
I mean, it's new. It's already funded, and it is it's 3D printed files. It's basically going to be a 3D printer, high quality 3D printing that he's then going to make resin molds out of. Right. However, there's a pledge level where you can get all of the non-free. So one of the patterns, the Gothic pattern, those patterns are free already. You can just kind of have them. But all of the non-free files you can get as a pledge.
Yep, $25.
For $25, you can get all the files to print all of the terrain you want.
Which is interesting because...
There is a user license with it and all this stuff to make sure you're not selling it and all that. But
right, it's a private use license. Yeah. But it's interesting because on one hand, it seems ingenious because it's $25 for nothing. Right. You don't have to... it's not costing him anything to sell those files that he's already created.
Designed, because he needed them for himself anyway.
The flip side to that is that
I have no reason to go back to them.
right, you're done for life for 25.
For those particular patterns. I mean, he comes up with new stuff, then maybe I come back. But and with the advent of cheap home 3D printers, not too distant future, should be one in this household. Oh, two in this household.
Yeah,
okay.
we got two.
So that's right, we got two in the club. I forgot. That buying those files is going to be worth it to us.
Right now,
and it's going to happen.
Here's the question: That's $25 free and clear.
Right.
What, for the viewing audience at home, do you think he would normally need to sell to someone to get $25 free and clear of income from sales? Like, let's say you're trying to build, you're going to buy the files. I don't have a printer. I'm going to buy terrain. At what point is he able to make more money off me than off you?
4 pieces of terrain, probably. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean,
doing the math in my head, it came to 3 or 4.
Depending on how much she's running for individual pieces.
Honestly, there is the pledge for individual pieces. At $10, you get 4 choices.
Okay, so let's make the assumption of $2.50 a piece.
Okay.
If he's selling them for $2.50 a piece, assuming he has worked in his ratios properly to be able to sell them at market and make a decent return from stores,
right,
that means they need to be costing him between 50 to 60 cents a pop.
Okay.
So he's making a roughly, selling them direct from his own site, roughly a $2.
Well, and we don't know that his manufacturer's price, his retail price won't be more than the Kickstarter price. Usually they are.
But assuming that it is.
Okay. So yeah, all right. So you need to sell
a dozen pieces.
A dozen pieces to get the same $25 for stuff you had already had. It doesn't cost you anything to get it.
Right.
I mean, I get it. And right now, it's not as big a deal because we're just on the advent of having home print 3D printers.
Yeah, I think he probably could have gone a little bit higher.
I would. I'd
the number of sets that are in it.
Right. I'd have said 50 and still said it was a deal.
Yeah. But I think 40 to 50 would have been a good brand. I know, don't get me wrong. I'm glad he's not, because I'm going to buy it for $25.
Right.
But
I think you probably.
But I would have bought it for 40.
Right.
I would have bought it for 45. I would have considered it for 50.
Right. And given the unlocks, 50 probably would have still become eventually a deal. It may not be right now, but it would have been eventually. But anyway, if you're into 28mm gaming and you have pretty much any genre you can think of,
and own a 3D printer or have one nearby, look at that. And if you don't, look at the actual product.
By the way, the other thing is the pledge levels, they're not expensive.
No.
Like,
they're pretty good sets for the money.
Oh yeah, I was looking at these renders, I'm going, they're gorgeous. Now I will say that what about the Kickstarter is there's no picture of finished product.
Right.
They're all renders. Take that for what it is. That's a little bit of a buyer beware. This is also a guy who's never done a Kickstarter before and has never backed one, so he's a little bit...
So he's a little new to the
industry.
But that also means he doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience turning renders into finished goods.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things to be concerned about here.
But I would say for $10, I might throw $10 at him just to get the pieces and see what they look like.
And I mean, really, this is what Kickstarter is about.
Yeah.
It's
taking this new guy and helping him out.
Right.
And I will definitely say, Kickstarter's not a bad, it's not a bad design. I mean, we've seen tons worse.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think it's worth looking at. Go take a look. Give this guy some money if you think it's worth it.
Yep.
All right. We have a couple Kickstarters we've talked about a number of times, but they're all ending before our next show. Right. So we're going to talk about them one last time. The first one,
last hits on these ones, guys. Yes. So get in on.
So Awakening, the terrain which we've been raving about because, oh my lord, they have now
keep adding new sets that I need, not want, need.
They have completely unlocked the Blood and Bone set.
Yeah.
And they are now moving on to the Ancient Fountains set, which is like a Medusa Garden Greco-Roman set.
If you play Pulp City and you play The Forgotten...
Oh, I didn't even think of that!
And you don't get this set, you're doing it wrong.
I didn't even think... I was already liking the set before that.
Yeah.
I don't have enough money for this. Stop it, people. Saying.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season. So, one of the things I like about the Ancient Fountain set is they put up a render of the portal. And all the other portals were vertical.
Yeah.
And they're going to make this one
the vortex
like a vortex pool on the table. And I think that's kind of cool looking. The render really looked cool. they're all renders at this point because they've gone into their $1 million plan at this point. Stuff that they weren't.
They are so beyond where they thought they were going to hand this out.
So, but given what their stuff that they already had prepped look like, I trust the renders are going to look good.
Yeah.
So really awesome stuff. Another pattern for you to go look at if you weren't already in. This might be the one for you.
Yeah.
But
if for some reason none of the patterns they have come up with yet, none of the sets had really grabbed you,
this one might
go look at this one. Oh, and if they finish through this one, their next one that they're going to launch just before it ends, Cthulhu.
I'm going to point out that right now you've literally got less than 3 days to get in on this, so get in there now.
Yeah, but announcing Cthulhu in the last 3 days of your Kickstarter
Good
can
move.
double it.
I understand, but just don't wait.
Yeah.
When you see this, if you're interested, go do it. All right, so another Kickstarter that wasn't sure it was going to fund, but has funded, it's got about 4 days left, is Black Site X. Okay. They are the MDF terrain pieces that we've looked at a couple times, and they're not bad pieces. However, we both have looked at them a number of times and looked at them going, a lot of what I think makes them exciting to look at is painted.
Yeah. For those of you who will get the terminology, it's what we locally refer to as Green Knight Syndrome.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, all over the place.
All over the place. So they look great in the pictures, but I think it's one of the things you want to keep in mind when you're buying into it that a lot of that is probably done by the painter. I mean, good on him for doing it.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot
of... He's got that skill.
Right.
I don't. That's the problem.
That's the problem. However, there are a slew of add-ons available that weren't at launch.
Yes.
That they've increased their add-ons. There's a bunch of freebies. There's lots of scattered terrain bits. Like, so if you're not in for the big pieces because you can't make them look that pretty, the scatter terrain bits look worth it.
Really dynamic scatter terrain, really original concepts. Right. I'm really digging what they got on those.
I mean, it's funded at this point, so if you're in, you can get in for what you want and not have to worry about it not funding to get there.
Right.
And I definitely, like you said, the scatter bits, like, I think there's enough to peak that it's worth backing to pick some of the things out that you might like.
Yep.
So, all right. Oh, they have one stretch goal that's I think is reachable within the time frame that's left. So there's even some more freebie stuff coming out if we can get it there.
Cool.
So, all right, another new Kickstarter that just came out.
Okay.
And you showed it to me, and I got all excited. I'm not gonna lie. I may have giggled a little bit.
All right.
Hollywood Havoc.
Yeah.
Z-Clips expansion to their zombie game.
Studio Miniatures.
Studio Miniatures. So I apologize.
Z-Clips is the line.
Right. Basically, it's an expansion to their existing line that is based around a theme park, and it's all old Hollywood tropes. So you've got like mostly
Golden Age Hollywood.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
What got me excited was there's like a Survivor Dorothy with an axe, which I think like, that's kind of cool. There's a Survivor Elvis, and then as a stretch goal is an unlockable, dead version of all the survivors. There was a Marilyn Monroe, a Charlie Chaplin, and Elvis, and a Dorothy.
Were the base 4.
Were the base 4.
Right.
There were 4 monsters, which are very classic TV
the old Universal horror monsters.
Yeah. And then the stretch goals were unlocking zombie versions of survivors, and then some more, more Hollywood. They're all Hollywood-themed survivors, which is pretty much what these guys kind of do.
Right.
Is they take stuff that exists, and there might be licensing issues, there may not be. Though with the first 4, I think you pretty much can get away with it. These are images that exist. They're almost got to be fair use at this point.
I mean, I know the Marilyn Monroe estate classically tries to, make sure to defend that iconography, but like you almost can't at this point. It's just everywhere. Everybody knows, blonde chick with her skirt flying up equals Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, there's not much you can do about it. On the flip side, some of their stretch goals are a Angie model and a John model.
Yeah.
And Angie and John are quite clearly rip-offs of current IPs that are still in use.
In films.
And video games.
Yeah.
I mean, but literally, you take the Angie picture, and you put a picture of the first Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft, take one of the promotional posters and put this picture next to it, and it's the same image.
Yep.
Like, you can't deny that you're ripping off that IP.
Right.
The John, I'm sorry, it's Rambo. John Rambo, for those of you who don't know. And that film, they just had a Rambo film 4 years ago. Like, that IP is still legitimately owned by Stallone. So,
and will be long after he dies at this point.
Right. So, like, you know, we don't particularly care for people who rip off IPs.
Right.
But there's some interesting stuff here. So, make your own decisions. It's kind of how we feel about it. But it's worth mentioning, because there's some cool stuff there.
Yep.
All right. Wild in the Streets.
Wild in the Streets.
Here's a new, another new Kickstarter from another new company, but seems to have done a lot of prelim work leading into this.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, there's a couple things.
At least from maybe not from a Kickstarter perspective, but from a sculpting company perspective, right. From a miniature company perspective.
Yes. So it is. It's basically a street gang type modern. Skirmish game. So it's supposed to be low cost, you know, type game. There's no real rules. This is about getting the model lines done.
Well, they say there's a game coming with it, but you've seen absolutely nothing about it.
Right. So we'll see as that comes. I mean, look at this for the models first, and worry about the game second.
Right. My general opinion of any game coming out from designers game designers I've never heard of before is I'm always leery.
Yeah.
Granted. There are some guys that first time up at bat and really knock it out of the park.
Absolutely.
World's End.
I was going to say, I'm staring at the book over there.
One of the best.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't get really remembered as one of the best games of its launch year, there's something wrong. Like,
okay.
It's really, really solid.
Good.
So this might be like that.
This might be
it might not. I don't know yet. I haven't seen it.
But we bring it up partly because the models actually look really cool.
Yeah.
And there's 12 models available right now. There's a stretch goal for another faction.
Of 3.
So it's 3 models in each faction. So there's 4 factions. So it's not a board game.
Right.
It is in fact a tabletop war game, if there's actually a game for it. There's a 5th faction, which is the stretch goal, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But of the 4 factions that are in the original Kickstarter, 7 of the models are painted. So they have to at least be mastered at this point, because you don't paint masters.
Well, you don't paint greens.
You want greens, excuse me.
Right.
You paint masters. So, because if you paint green, you can't make a mount mold out of it. And 5 of the 12 look like they're masters.
Right.
But that means that pretty much all at this point you're looking at is molding.
Yeah.
Like, they've got a lot of the prelim work, and then, so it definitely looks like even though they're new and they've never been around, you've never seen them before,
they've thrown their own money at it.
Right, they've thrown their own money at it, and it looks less risky than some. Yeah. There is a question, and you mentioned it when you saw what the goal was. It's only $1,000 for their opening goal.
Right
here.
$1,000 to make molds for 12 models. That's what it says.
Right,
$1,000 to make molds for 12 models.
And we question the math on that a bit.
Right, because that math doesn't work.
Right, because $1,000 isn't enough to make. There's one way we've decided it can work, but we don't think it's the best way to go about making molds. However, if it was your initial goal, and then you were going to expand from there. Well, anyway, so if you make one mold for all 12 models, it's legitimate at $1,000.
To have a Kickstarter that can make the mold, produce the models, ship the models out, and cover all costs
At $1,000.
Yeah, you got to do it
with one mold.
You got to do it all in one mold, which you can fit a dozen models in a mold.
Right. There's downsides to doing that, but it's something that just occurred to me as we were talking. Actually, is yes, that might be your default. I'm going to do one mold to get it launched and out there. But if it becomes wildly successful, there's nothing to say you don't expand it into more molds.
Right. There's nothing to say that you can't throw good money after bad.
Right.
But that's exactly what you'd have to do.
Sure.
You would have to say, we have an existing mold for this, but to maintain the inventory of the one pack that sells really good, I have to have way too much inventory of the one pack that doesn't sell well. Or I have to remold. Either way, it's not the best way to go.
What I'm saying is if the Kickstarter is wildly successful, who's to say any of the molds are done?
Right.
Like, so you can make all the molds defined by what you actually make in money at that point.
If the Kickstarter funds $3-5 grand, sure. You could make each one as a separate mold.
Right. Which is possible. I mean, $5 grand isn't asking a lot. I mean, we've seen lots of Kickstarters get there, and it's not that big a deal. But at $1,000, I think it's almost guaranteed this thing will fund, because
it's almost halfway there.
It's almost halfway there, and people will just throw money. And for $1,000, people are like, "Well, there's a really good chance this is going to do that."
One of the things I really like about this one, by the way, is as someone that had my misspent youth in a lot of different counterculture.
Yes.
I'm going to say normally models that try to do counterculture, punks, goths, metalheads, grossly inaccurate.
And these look really well done.
These are spot on.
Like, they nail what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. These are really spot on to the descriptions.
Absolutely.
Whereas normally it's, you know, it's got that lost in translation feel to it.
Right.
Where you go, well, I guess I'll field that on the table because I need a model that represents, you know, an 80s Brit punk. And they got a model in a studded jacket and a mohawk.
Yeah, it's close, kind of.
Who's wearing sneakers. Like there's always something that doesn't work. In this case, though, it works.
They all look right,
yeah.
They definitely stayed to the...
Really true to subject matter.
Yeah, to the subject matter. That's what I was looking for. And, I mean, as a Kickstarter, it's actually pretty decent value.
Yeah.
I mean, $15 gets you one gang, which is 3 models, or $50 gets you all 4.
Yeah. So, low end, $5 a piece.
Which isn't bad.
Yeah. And high end, you're looking at 12 models for $50, so like $4.50 a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You save yourself a little bit, but if you like, I mean, it's definitely worth going to look at them, because I would be surprised if you have any interest in any of the counterculture motifs. There's going to be something there
for any reason.
For any reason.
If you're playing zombie games, if you're playing. If you're looking at New York Bop and want to do a little bit different, if you're looking at using them for thugs for Pulp City, if you're a Spinespur fan, like there's a whole bunch of uses for these guys.
Absolutely. So yeah, they definitely have a place, you know, game or no game, and I liked the models. I gotta tell you, I really liked the goth ones.
They had a lot of character.
Yeah, so definitely worth looking at. But I think it's time for our live update.
Okay. So, while we were having our club night last night, our friends at World's End Publishing...
I should bring it up on here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to bring it up on there?
Okay.
Just keep your eyes right here on this man. Our friends...
We have a problem.
What's your problem?
It just turned itself off.
God.
I'm going to grab a cord. I'll be right back.
Cord right there. Okay, so we're back after a undisclosed hiatus, trying to get some juice into this notepad here.
And like orange juice really didn't work. We had to try apple juice. Eventually I bought it a V8.
Grapefruit juice totally did not help.
Yeah, it just gummed up the works.
Yeah.
Kind of made it look like jelly and jam and stuff. Alright. My internet's taking forever. But Kickstarter's not loading.
Good.
So we'll find out what happened on This Is Not a Test. World's End Publishing
Okay, so while you're trying to get it ready to come up, what was your projection for their backer total that we discussed earlier today?
Earlier today?
Yeah. You can revise it now if you want, but...
What was I going to say? That was earlier today. I'd say by now it's probably 110.
Okay. And dollar amount?
Well, I know where it was at when we talked earlier, so I'm going to say it's $2,200.
Okay.
Kim?
The funding goal, by the way, is $2,000. Just so you guys have some information.
I didn't even realize that was the funding goal.
The funding goal was $2,000. Yes.
Congratulations to World's End Publishing.
Right?
212 backers. In
One day.
212 backers, $15,959.
Yup.
And I haven't even got mine yet in.
Nope. As a club, we have one in, because I put one in last night after it was up.
Wow. Guys, congratulations.
Seriously. Well done.
That's awesome.
For those of you that, you know, we harp on things to do right and things to do wrong for a Kickstarter, this is a company that spent 2 years, 2 years, developing its customer base, developing a client base, getting word out to backers at conventions. There's 25 backers for this thing in New Zealand and Australia combined.
Okay.
And at least a quarter of those pledges are dual book pledges. Like, there's a lot of players for this down under.
Awesome. Well, post-apoc, Down Under, Mad Max, anyone? Just saying.
Yeah, they kind of invented the genre.
Yeah, it kind of is their thing. I'm just putting in my play.
Oh, you gotta just put in your play.
I just put it right, yeah, right on camera, so you can see me doing it.
That way it gets over 16. So
it's now over 16,000.
Which one are you putting in?
The early supporter.
The early supporter, cool.
Yeah.
Add an extra $2 for the scenario pack that Chris wrote.
Okay.
Just PDF, $2.
Got it.
Woohoo! And oh my God, the Johnny Atomic model.
So it's not 16,019.
The Johnny Atomic model, so worth waiting for.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful model.
Awesome. That's
so
awesome.
happy about it. The Wasteland Nurse model is also available in the Kickstarter.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
So that's going to be another $10 you're going to want to add in.
Stupid. What the heck?
Yep.
All this money I'm going to spend. You know, I got bills to pay, people.
Yep.
I got rents to pay. My landlady's not going to be happy when I don't give away her rent.
It's kidneys. You got to sell more kidneys.
I was just expecting this.
Not your own.
This is true.
Never your own.
Oh, look at a little wanderer nurse and helper dog.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like the $1 million plan that he had,
Yeah.
his stretch goals kind of capped out at 10,000. So
you need to work on that.
yeah.
Have we actually heard from Johnny?
I've checked.
So he didn't have a heart attack. He's not in the hospital.
He did not. He is in a little bit of shock.
I'm sure he is.
Both he and Chris are alive and mostly well.
And honestly, you guys made an awesome game, and you deserve all of this. So
yeah, I'm glad
enjoy
it's happening.
Congratulations, that's really awesome. Literally, that number doesn't make any sense to me. Okay,
It doesn't make any sense to them either. Trust me.
that's cool, guys. Really, really good job. Do you have anything else for Kickstarter Day?
No, I think we're good for right now.
All right, I'm gonna go figure out how to pay rent and gaming.
Yep. Also, special thanks to Joe Ziprich for the name for this Kickstarter episode.
Thank you very much.
We need more people to come up with funny sounding
I'm tired
names.
of giving this guy credit for stuff. Come on, somebody give me a name.
Give us some cool names for the show next week. Post them down below. If you have any questions or responses to anything we've said on the show this week, post down below. We always respond to any questions or comments that anybody leaves below.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, so that's everything I've got. That's everything you've got. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm Belgraph97. This is
Second Class Elitist.
And we will see you next time.